We are going to play some audio tonight of some stories, and then I'm going to stop and give you commentary and explanation on some of the odd parts about the stories. Now, I did being here quite some time ago. Well, I hate going to everyone. This phone is being a pain in the butt. This iPhone don't quite work right, and I had to clear out everything to where everything wasn't sideways. Hello, Ronnie. We're going to have some stories. I meant to have been here earlier, but, it just wasn't going to happen. Since was live, so there. Hello, you're not so good at this. We are going to have entertainment tonight. Now, once more, on this channel, we generally do entertainment. Now, on my last test live, I found a channel called Vox in the Void that didn't strike me for doing commentary. Now, I did play a couple hours ago, but Nicolina's live went a little bit late. Well, I dropped my phone earlier, and I think I know where it fell, because evidently these blankets over here, they're talking. But they're going electronic. Boom, boom, ah. I'd lost what I was going to look for. And now I have found it. Hello, Kintsugi. Yes, so, we're going to have some entertainment, and we're going to start to do this regularly. I have found one channel that I can get away with this, and I'm hoping to find more. Now, I thought about exploring, but we're going to have a short tale tonight. It's 34 minutes long, so I figure we will have about an hour-long program. Now, I do intend at night on running these regular, kind of like bedtime stories. I'm not going to keep a schedule because I have to work it around my life. But, like I say, like these 30-minute ones, I can run an hour-long live for those, and it should be interesting. Now, this will be a scary story. It's about the Night Lords. Now, to frame this, the Emperor had 20 legions, and something bad happened to 2 legions, and they won't tell us what happened. But there were 18 legions, and 9 of them stayed loyal to the Emperor, and 9 of them betrayed the Emperor. Well, if I do remember right, the Night Lords are the 8th Legion, and they turned against the Emperor. And their Primarch, their leader, was named Konrad Curze. And this is the story about them. Now, Konrad Curze is many times referred to in Warhammer 40k as Space Batman. If Space Batman was a sadistic madman. So, we are going to start with this one tonight called Tales of the Night Lords.
Tales of the Night Lords. Bring the Night by Rob Sanders. They called it the Veiled Region for a reason. Dust-choked and buried in the Garon Nebula, the Hellstars were a bloodshot haze. Their dungeon glowed the red of instruments heated for torture. What Demrid Sheremetev wouldn't give to see them now. Ark's Phineas 4 was a miserable garrison world in a forgotten corner of the Segmentum Tempestus. It was a bleak world. Mostly mica desert and crumbling fortifications that would hold more interest for an Imperial archaeographer than an enemy. To the 1002nd Volscian Shadow Brigade, it was home. As Lord Marshal and Planetary Governor, Sheremetev was responsible not only for his guardsmen, but also for the garrison-serving communities dotted across the small world. When a supply brig passed through a nearby meteor storm, the ship warned the garrison world that it too was likely to encounter the phenomenon. With little to do but drink, gamble, and fight with the locals and each other, Sheremetev was eager to distract his men from the tedium of never-ending garrison duty.
Now, one of you...
Seeking the sanction of his regimental commissar...
Oops. I meant to hit pause, because once again, it was time for commentary anyway, but instead of commentary, you know, the shirt, it was a gift from a subscriber. So, you know, I do have to thank everyone for the shirt, but yes, you know, this kitty shirt, this is a gift from one of you guys.
The venerable Arturus Gannibal, the Lord Marshal, proposed a skeleton watch and authorized a session of rest and recreation for the duration of the storm. In doing so, Demrid Sheremetev granted his long-suffering Volscians and the people of this ugly little world.
Well, when I do my own fiction, it will have my voice. You know, when I get done, you know, there will be narrations, because, you see, for my book, I have my own book world, and I am going to do my own narrations. And one of the things, if you've noticed that in the last few months, I've not been doing as much content. And one of the reasons is because sometimes I'm sitting here and writing.
Something that they could never have dreamed of finding in the murky skies. A night of beauty. As Arx Phineas IV's brief day turned to night, the Lord Marshal ordered an extra ration of grog for his off-duty guardsmen. Music from settlement drinking holes was carried across the mica deserts on the wilderness breeze. Volscians came out onto the sands, crowding around guard bastions and derelict fortifications. They sang the raucous songs of their hive-world home with drink in their bellies and local girls in their arms. On the roof of the central command spire, among the Vox masts and gun emplacements, the Lord Marshal and Arturus Gannibal shared a bottle of Amasek Sheremetev had been saving and watched the show. Eyes turned towards the heavens. The meteorite shower lit up the sky with its dazzling re-entries. The nebulous murk became a dance of light, flashing, streaming. Meteorites slashed down through the atmosphere, trailing blinding arcs of light. It was an incredible sight. The firmament glowed. It was the last beautiful thing any of them ever saw. Somewhere, a Vox was bleeding static. It was all Sheremetev had heard for days.
Now, a Vox is basically their version of radio.
The brain-aching hiss of nothingness, punctuated by begging, suffering and screaming, or sometimes by the whoosh of Volscian lasfire. A Vox bank on an open channel was receiving sporadic transmissions from forts, bastions and outposts from across the garrison world. Beyond the stale stench of death and the fearful unfamiliarity of a world made stranger, Sheremetev only had the ear-bleeding insistence of the Vox to help him visualize the horror of the planet's predicament. His garrison world. His responsibility. The night of the meteor shower had taken everything else. The world turned. The blazing re-entries died away with the festivities. As night turned to day, Sheremetev ordered the Volscians...
Now, where they said the meteor shower, now many times Space Marines will use a device called a drop pod. And a drop pod will drop an entire squad of Space Marines all at once. Now, normal people usually don't use a drop pod because they come down so violently. Unless you're a super soldier, you're going to end up squished. Now, in the book, sometimes they'll have an Inquisitor or someone in a drop pod, but really that is just bad writing. And the fact is that the writer wants to get the character to the surface, but usually drop pods are only supposed to be used by Space Marines.
Shadow Brigade back to force readiness, and a full complement for the early morning watch. Only then did he hit his bunk. He was awoken only 2 hours later by the officer of the watch, Lieutenant Krusak. He informed his superior that an epidemic of blindness had broken out amongst the garrison guardsmen and the wider planetary population. Many had already lost their sight. For others, it was deteriorating fast. "Send for the chief medical officer and the regimental astropath," Sheremetev had ordered. If the situation was as bad as it sounded, then they might need to send for assistance. "Exley's overrun in the infirmary. We've sent for the astropath," Krusak had told him, "but we can't find her."
Now, in astropath, you see, in their world, you know how Star Trek, they say we would send a message, but it would take us like 50 years for the message to get there? Well, what they've done in Warhammer 40k, they have psychics. And they are basically, because the Imperium of Man is so large, it covers most of the galaxy. So, you know, to cross one into the other or send a message, you couldn't do it by normal technological means. So they do it by psychic individuals. And that is what a astropath is.
Sheremetev had sat on the side of his bunk. Gannibal and the Volscians were murky silhouettes. "Keep looking, and turn on the lights," the Lord Marshal had said. "They're on, sir," Krusak had told him. Sheremetev nodded to himself in the growing darkness. He tapped on his temple. "Not in here," he had announced grimly. That had been 2 weeks ago. Perhaps more. "Arturus," Sheremetev croaked across the command post. "Lord Marshal," the aged commissar replied finally. "Still here?" It was difficult to tell where he was. The floor, possibly. Sheremetev had found his way to a chair in front of a crackling rune bank. The raw hiss of the Vox in one ear, and the meaningless chatter of a technomat servitor, repeating what Sheremetev could only think was an endless and growing list of emergency imperatives, in lingua technis. "Lieutenant." "Nothing." "Krusak." "I think the lieutenant's dead, sir." "Wonders."
Now, the Night Lords, they fight with terror. They use terror as a weapon. So they've created a plague of blindness on the planet, and everyone has gone blind. Now, I'm going to try tomorrow to have what I was going to present tonight, but what I'm going to present tomorrow I think is such a high quality, I didn't want to do it this late. Because, well, I guess most people's gone to bed because apparently there's only me and one other person in chat now. But this is why I'm going to present the A-list stuff that I wanted to tonight, tomorrow, because there's so few here.
"Yes, Lord Marshal." "Sergeant."
Well, Ronnie, it looks like it's just me and you.
Sheremetev ordered.
Huh.
"Yes, sir." The gruff voice of the Hive Worlds.
Well, my YouTube is lying to me, because it says one person in chat. Okay, YouTube's just glitching badly. Because obviously there's plenty of people here. It's just, my YouTube isn't showing it. It says right now, well now it says 3. Now, tomorrow there's a story called Gav and Bob. And they have 4 parts of it. And it is excellent. This is kind of a horror story. So that's why we're going to do this late night. And the fact is it's short. Now, when I do Gav and Bob tomorrow, unless I have a seizure, that's the only way that I want to do it prime time, and it's actually good enough that you might need something to wipe your eyes because it has a couple really sad parts in it.
Sergeant returned. "Ordell, Zant, Nadina, Wozniak." The Lord Marshal heard all but Wozniak bleakly identify themselves from their positions on the blind perimeter. Thirst and hunger had hit them hard. Like the lieutenant, Wozniak too had left them. Then, as the roll call was completed, "Did you hear that?" Sheremetev said. The distant boom of engines closing. It built to a passing thunder. Roaring thrusters taking craft down to the dusty plain to the east of the base. The landing zone that the garrison charitably called the spaceport. "A lander?" Gannibal said weakly. "The Adeptus Astartes?" the sergeant suggested. Sheremetev
Now, the Adeptus Astartes, that's also the name for Space Marines.
wanted to give the Volscians some hope. "Viper Legion, out of Aurelius," the Lord Marshal told them. "Emperor be praised!" Guardsman Nardina gasped. The Viper Legion occasionally honored Arx Phineas IV with visits as part of their own patrols, and broader vigilance within the Garon Nebula. "Sergeant," Sheremetev announced, the dry rasp of his voice assuming something of its usual confidence and determination. "Protocols will be observed."
Well, this channel has some other stuff besides Warhammer 40k, and I almost played some of that tonight, but once again, I knew because it's a weekday, I didn't want to go with the best stuff. Like I said, I think they did have some Poe, and they did have a little other of classical stuff on this channel. But like I said, that I thought, well, I want to save that for the weekend. Sometime where people don't have to go to bed.
"Meet the Adeptus Astartes in the courtyard. Inform them that we are the victims of a rare astral phenomenon. Apprise them of the desperation of our situation. Take Zand. Go, son. Emperor's speed." "Yes, Lord Marshal." As with Sheremetev, something of the old Volscian sergeant had returned. Sheremetev listened to Ordell pull aside the materials they had used to barricade the command post door, and heard the two guardsmen stumble and pat their way along the access corridor. For the longest time, Sheremetev, the Commissar, and the remaining Volscians listened. They waited for salvation. It never came. The light flutter of hope in the Lord Marshal's stomach turned to lead as he heard the sickening crash of a bolt gun out on the landing zone. Tumbling through the absolute darkness inside his head, his heart snatched in sickening realization. Sheremetev knew the sound of an execution round. It was closely followed by another. "God, Emperor, no!" was all the Lord Marshal could manage. "Secure the perimeter!" Commissar Gannibal ordered. "What's happening?" Guardsman Nardina bleated fearfully. "It's not the Viper Legion," Gannibal told him. "Nardina, Odell, get on the door." The wait was an eternity of screams.
Now, they thought it was Space Marines that were landing. It wasn't. It was the 8th Legion Night Lords.
Suffering, not brutality for survival's sake. Not the pain and suffering that had followed the garrison world's descent into darkness. It wasn't fear for what was to come. It was the heart-plunging horror of the here and now. Menace, dread, fully realized. Torture, terror, death. Across the open Vox channel, without the command center and within, guardsmen and the Imperial citizenry they were supposed to be protecting were at the mercy of an invasion force. Sheremetev had no choice but to wait and bear silent witness to the fearful ordeal while plate-clad monsters hunted his people with bolt gun and blade through the private darkness of their doom. When it arrived in the command center, the hydraulic inevitability of power-armored steps carrying the Angels of Death right up to their door.
So yes, now typically all Space Marines are called the Emperor's Angels of Death. Now, really writing-wise, I probably would not have said that because, once again, normally when you say Angels of Death, it really doesn't mean something per se bad. But in this case, it does.
The thunderclap of bolt guns was almost a relief. Nardina died without even getting his finger to his trigger. Ordell's lasgun sent a wild whoosh at their attackers, but to no avail. Within moments, the coppery sting of their messy deaths filled the chamber. Silence. Step. Silence. Step. Sheremetev angled his head and listened for his end. When the voice came, it was a booming everything, intimate yet everywhere, at one with the darkness in which the Lord Marshal was drowning.
I have brought you the night, mortal.
Now,
Sheremetev blinked
Oh,
his
shit.
blindness and swallowed back.
Now, typically, a Space Marine, they're in a big suit of power armor. And inside of their helmet, they've basically got an amplified voice. So that's what he's using, and that's why this character's voice is coming from everywhere.
Back his fear. My name is Demrid Sheremetev, Lord Marshal of the 1002nd Volscian Shadow Brigade.
No.
The voice chided, the words chill like the desert night.
We don't deal in names. Neither yours nor our own. We are the night.
You are traitors.
We deal in dread and the end that follows.
The renegade angel told him.
It is our calling.
The storm, Sheremetev asked. It was yours? He had to know.
A weapon of terror.
The Space Marine told him.
One of many at our disposal, Imperial Pig. Now, listen carefully.
The darkness gave an order to one of its own. There was a scuffle. Sheremetev could hear Gannibal's feeble grunts of exertion against the Chaos Space Marines that held him. He reached out, but flinched as the Commissar's bolt pistol went off. The Lord Marshal heard his friend cry out, as an armored gauntlet crushed the bone in his hand around the pistol, as well as the thunk of the pistol hitting the floor, where the owner of the silky voice kicked it away.
That's better.
The darkness said.
Now we can talk. We have in our possession your soul-bound wretch of a regimental astro-telepath. Know that she is but a possession to us, without purpose, a piece of meat. I implore you, do not take away that purpose, for it is the only thing keeping her alive.
What do you want?
I want to answer your prayers.
The darkness promised.
I want to send a request for assistance to the Viper Legion on Aurelius.
You want to lure the Emperor's angels here, so that you can murder them. Gannibal bawled at them, the aged Commissar still struggling against his captors.
The witch.
Now, typically, the Night Lords, they're not the kind of guys that like a straight-up fight. They like to use subterfuge, and they like to use terror.
Will help us in order to save her Psyker skin.
The darkness told Sheremetev.
But for Aurelius to take us seriously, we need your regimental authorization codes. The ones you are going to give me.
Don't give this monster anything! Gannibal roared. The darkness gave another order, an instruction that was only made complete by the hideous screaming of the Commissar that followed.
Do you hear that?
The darkness put to Sheremetev, coming in close.
He lacked foresight, and I'm taking his eyes. He wasn't going to need them. I'm here thinking about what else he might not need, and he will be but the first. I'll bring in your men, one by one, and take them apart before you. You'll hear their screams. You'll feel their blood spray against your face.
Sheremetev was shaking his head. I beg you.
And I guarantee he's not kidding.
Don't do this.
No, I beg you. Do not take the selfish path.
I can't give you.
You can.
The darkness insisted.
You can. And you will. And here is why. Nobody's coming to help you. To save you. To avenge you. My vessel is positioned to destroy any vessel attempting to leave or enter the system. After deploying the atmospherics, you took for a pretty storm. We sat in deep orbit for days just to listen to your tiny garrison world tear itself apart. The screams. The merciless degeneration of order into chaos, robbery, and murder. Before we even set foot on this planet, we savored it all. Do not doubt our commitment to your suffering. Do this, and I promise you my mercy.
Timrid! No!
Now, typically Night Lords are not known for keeping their word.
Gannibal moaned.
You have to.
The darkness told him. So close the words seemed to proceed from his own broken mind. I have to. Sheremetev finally agreed.
The astro-telepathic authorization code.
4, 2, 7. The Lord Marshal told him miserably. Psi, Sigma, Epsilon, Delta. The voice was suddenly distant once more. The Chaos Space Marine in Congress with his dark brethren.
Ensure that she tells them that this miserable world belongs to the Night Lords.
The darkness seethed.
And exaggerate reports of our number. I want the Viper Legion to send everything they have.
Then, to another renegade angel.
Have the Tenebrius hold low orbit, and stand by to receive our Thunderhawks. Then, set a course for Aurelius.
Now, a Thunderhawk is the typical transport that most Space Marines use.
Yes, my lord.
For Sheremetev, there were no words.
We bring the night.
The darkness told him.
We brought the night to your wretched world. And while the Viper Legion mobilizes their companies, rushing to the aid of your corpses, we will bring the terror of the night to the Angels' home world.
Sheremetev heard Gannibal moan. Mercy! The Night Lord chuckled darkly.
Your people shall die of thirst.
The darkness told him.
Of starvation. Of each other. You, however, who have been such a use to our cause. How could I not grant you an angel's mercy?
Sheremetev heard the clunk of the Night Lord's bolt pistol priming.
What do you think I am? A monster?
What are you doing to protect your homeland? I'm playing it.
So yes, that is how the story ends. With the Night Lord who is going to shoot the head of the military. Now, like I said, Night Lords are not nice guys. And basically what the Night Lords were doing were drawing all of those other Space Marines there for a trap, while the Night Lords went off to attack their own homeworld. So yes, the Night Lords are dicks. So yes, that was all a plan to get the good guys to come save the day, and while the good guys come to save the day, the bad guys are going to go and take over their place. And that was the whole Night Lords plan. Now, that was just an introduction to the Night Lords, and on this channel there's many short stories. Now, this one I would say is probably not one of the better ones, honestly. But you know, for midnight I thought, well, you know what? A scary bedtime story You know, that could be just the thing for right now because it is Tuesday at a midnight. So since we started there, I thought, you know, we'd do that and just hang out here for a little while. Now, tomorrow I want to start Gav and Bob. And it is a story that's going on, and there's currently 4 parts that are about 30 minutes apiece. And then, like I say, I listened to 2 of the parts. I've not heard all 4. So 2 of the parts will be fresh for me, and I've intentionally not listened to them so it would be fresh to me. But in reality, the story of Gav and Bob, it can be sad. I mean, there will be parts of it that it's a tearjerker. But where this was, you know, we consider this more like fluff. You know, this was more of like a pulp story. But the story of Gav and Bob, it's an original story. Like I said, it's heartwarming in spots, and it's also sad. It's got all of the markings of a classic, and it's an original they did on this channel. So there's very few people that have ever heard it. And that's what I intended on doing tonight, but then I intended on being here in between 8 and 10 p.m. But that's why I decided late night to do the Night Lords. And this is the introduction to the 8th Legion and how they act. Now, where these guys seem to be very treacherous, their Primarch, he was not. Now, he was insane. You see, Konrad Curze, he could see the future. And it drove him insane. It drove him absolutely, totally insane. To where when the Imperium sent an assassin to kill him, he let the assassin kill him. You know, that was an interesting thing. You know, the Primarch, the head of the 8th Legion, actually allowed himself to be assassinated. Now, out throughout his entire life, he had visions of that assassin coming. And he could have killed the assassin. That would have been no problem for him to have killed the assassin. But he let himself be killed. Now, the reason why, that is a whole nother story. And that goes back to him and his father, the Emperor. Let's just say they were not happy father and son. But when I talk about Konrad Curze in stories, you know, we will talk about that then. But this is, like I said, this is just a flavor of the Night Lords because they're basically the Halloween Legion. You know, when it comes back to October, and you know, we're doing Halloween stories on this one, we will be playing that one again. And typically, I'm guessing next Halloween season, there will be a lot of Night Lord stories. And to be honest, you know, I gave you a sample of this, but I will probably save most of the Night Lord stories just for Halloween stories because they're all typically like that. They're all going to be scary Freddy Krueger-like stories. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get off here, and I'm going to post all of these so anyone can watch them because, once again, I'm going to explain Warhammer 40K because there's going to be the big Amazon series that they're getting ready to write and shoot. And everyone's going to need to know what is a Voxcaster. And now, the day that you hear the word Konrad Curze or you hear a Night Lord when the series starts, you know, you'll pretty much have an idea, and you can impress whatever guy you're with. Now, I'm going to go out right now and go to bed. I mean, instantly. I'm going to let Rachel back in the room. I'm going to clean off my stuff right here. And, you know, you can't see it, but I've got my whole bed right here. I mean, you can't see it. It's, you know, kind of cleverly hidden. But you're basically on my bedding. And I'm about to go straight to bed, like I said, as soon as I let my little brat in here. And for my other little brat, Summer. But she's just over here sitting on a cardboard box. I had a delivery a couple days ago that had cat food and some other stuff in it. She's just sitting over here on the box. I was kind of wondering why she didn't come over here and hang with us. I'm like, where's she sleeping? But yeah, she's not sleeping. She's just standing on the box like she needs to be standing on the box. Now, everyone, thank you for coming. Have a good night. And we will have these little story times fairly often.